Sometimes it feels like there's not much that we all agree on these days, but I think that there's one thing we definitely can, and that is that time is a finite resource. We all have the same 24 hours in every single day, the same 7 days in a week, and sometimes it's really tempting to look around and see what other people, peers, maybe perhaps other moms at your same stage or even at different stages, what they're doing, what they're getting done in a day, what they're accomplishing, how productive they are. And ask yourself, well, like, why can't I do that? Why am I not able to do all the things that she seems to be able to do? In light of that, what I wanted to bring to you guys today are 6 ways that you might be wasting your time as a homemaker, as a stay-at-home mom, as a work-at-home mom. 6 key things to look at and evaluate if you feel like there's not enough time in the day to get things done, or you get to the end of the day and you're like, where did this day go? Time really is our most precious asset, and it's always a good idea to evaluate how you're using that time, ways you might be wasting some of that precious time, and what you can do to change that. As always, with any kind of video like this, y'all, that I do that is like somewhat advice driven or something like that, tips, etc., honestly, for the most part, these are always things that like I have come to my own realization on, and I want to share it with you. I never want to come to these videos from a preachy perspective as if I have all the answers. I screw it up every single day pretty much. There's something that I screw up. So this isn't me saying I'm an expert, let me tell you what you're doing wrong. This is me sharing with you guys some of the ways that I have found that I'm wasting my time. And maybe that is applicable for you too. So let us jump in. And if you find this video helpful or interesting, be sure to subscribe. This is actually the first of a 3 to 4 part series of videos that I'm doing sort of on this topic. If this speaks to you in some way or you feel like you relate and it's helpful to you, be sure to subscribe because there's a few more videos in this series still to come. The first way that you might be wasting your time is with misplaced focus or an inability to focus. This is something that I think so many adults struggle with. There are a lot of things in our culture and our society that it feels like some days are conspiring to make our focus even worse than it already is. As much as we all love and can fall down the rabbit hole of, TikToks and Instagram reels and things like that, really, it was, I believe, with the invention of certain videos and shows on MTV where they quickly figured that they started making every cut, every edit 3 seconds. So each clip of a video, you would never see the same thing on the screen for more than 3 seconds. I honestly don't know like whose idea that was, where that came from, what marketing research led them to do that, but it's definitely spread. And as a creator, I mean, even I see this with how, we get all kinds of information given to us in YouTube analytics about retention, watch time, intros, how long if people are clicking off your video immediately after starting it because it doesn't move fast enough for them. It's one of those things that our attention is just ever more being depleted, and we have to work harder to be able to stay focused. If you are an adult with ADD, this problem can be even more, compounded. So being able to focus on one task at a time is incredibly important. I want to talk more about this later in future videos. That's kind of the lie that is multitasking, because there is just copious amounts of research that show that the idea that we can truly multitask is false. There are ways in which we do multitask where things get mostly done, but the effectiveness, the length of time it takes us to achieve those things, that is all affected by how many things we're trying to juggle at once. Focusing on one task at a time is actually benefiting you and helping you to not waste so much time. If you intensely focus on one thing, you are more likely to get way more done than if you try to do multiple things at once. And in a future video, I'm going to share with you guys a number of tips to help you figure out how to focus better if you do struggle with that. We're going to talk about that in a forthcoming video, like how to stay focused on your tasks. I think a lot of times people believe that these skills and strategies are just for people who work outside the home, that this kind of ability to set priorities and strategies for focus and productivity, they only really matter for people who go into an office every day, CEOs, business people, businessmen, as the Muppets say. And it's really not true. These things really, I think moms more than anyone else, stay-at-home moms, homemakers, more than anyone else, really need to hone these skills. The ability to rein that in and focus, and the number of tasks and things, from being a chef to a grocery shopper, to a chauffeur, to a maid, laundry, cleaning, cooking, homeschooling, family wrangler for appointments and birthdays and anniversaries and gifts for parties. All of the things of life generally fall on the mom, on the stay-at-home mom, the homemaker role. And so our ability or temptation to multitask, I think, is in some ways infinitely higher. So I want to talk more about that, but let's go ahead and move on to number 2, which should not come as any surprise to you. This is probably number 1 on pretty much everyone else's list. I put it as number 2 because it's not as much of a problem for me as it used to be, but that is social media. Y'all, we already kind of talked about how Instagram and TikTok have really made our ability to focus on something very small. We kind of expect a situational change like every 3 seconds because of that. But we all know that it becomes like this vortex, this black hole that we fall down where you don't even realize it and you've been watching Reels or TikToks for hours. I give myself one day a week. Sometimes I don't get it, but I try one day a week where I don't get up super early. I stay in bed. And if I don't have anything that I have to get up to do, then that's the time when I allow myself to sit there and just go through and watch Reels. And let me just tell you, because I don't have TikTok, so I just watch Reels. I will be there for like 4 hours. I mean, that's part of the reason that I don't allow myself to really sit on social media much, is because the way that my brain works, if I get super interested in something, I can't put it down, I can't let it go, and I'll just keep going and going and going and going until it's like the sun has been setting and I'm still in bed. I'm like, what have I done with my life? Setting time limits, setting rules for yourself for social media usage is a good idea. I know that we're adults. I can decide what I want to do for myself. You can't tell me what to do, and I can't tell you what to do. You can tell you what to do. And if you know that you're wasting a lot of time on social media, again, there's all kinds of apps for tracking usage. I have a friend who, she's my hero. She told me recently that she has removed Instagram from her phone and she only re-downloads it like every 10 days or so to just check in and make sure that everything's good, and then she takes it off her phone again. I wish I could get to that point. Social media is just, over the years, because it's part of my job, it's decreased my desire to be on it when I don't have to be, which in some ways is really, really good, because I feel like I don't live a lot of my life knowing what's going on at every second in the outside world, and I'm controlling when those inputs are coming in, when the news things are coming in, the scary things are coming in, the drama of something is coming in, the unexpected news. You can be in the middle of a great day and you scroll and you see that maybe somebody not even in your actual everyday life, but somebody you follow and you feel invested in, and something sad and tragic has happened to them, and it just it brings your whole day down too. This is like a whole other topic we could go into, but whether or not our brains and our systems were not created for, and certainly have not evolved to a point yet that we were meant to bear the weight of the world's problems every single day. We were meant to live in small communities. So the globalization of everything has brought that stress right to our doorstep every single day. And every time you open that phone, you're opening the world's problems to your brain and to your day and how you're interacting with your kids and family every day. I'm not saying don't care. I'm not saying don't pay attention. I'm saying to calibrate and choose when you're allowing that information to come in and how you're allowing that information to take up your time during your day. And that kind of brings me to number 3. So again, a lot of usage of social media. Listen, the idea of keeping up with the Joneses. So number 3 is about comparison. And the idea of keeping up with the Joneses has been around long before the internet or social media. So the idea that just being online has made us worse for, comparing ourselves to others. We'll do it no matter where we are. We'll do it inside of a church building. We'll do it inside of school. We'll do it at the grocery store. It's just part of our human nature. However, I do think that with the advent of social media and its sort of ability to permeate every part of our life, it has definitely exacerbated the idea of comparison, especially comparison like what feels like very peer-to-peer, because you see someone else who's the same age as you, or you think they are, or they have the same amount of kids as you, their kids are the same ages as yours. You know, without any other metrics, it's very easy to just pick what your brain is perhaps like the most self-conscious about and use it to compare. And one of the ways, I'll just give you again an example for myself. Oh, there's a lizard outside. One of the ways that I do this is with my home. Our last home in Charlotte, North Carolina area was a home that we bought out of foreclosure. The inside of it was good bones, but needed some work. We had a very small little kitchen, and I remember, you know, friends in my real life buying and building houses, and they had these huge kitchens. This was when the idea of like a massive kitchen with a huge island was like very much how houses were being built, with huge bonus rooms and stuff. And I always felt like, oh, my kitchen is so small. I don't even have a kitchen island. Ugh. These kind of things that when we can get a little more perspective, we like roll our eyes at ourselves. But I compared myself then. And then when we bought our home here, our home was built in 1930s and early 1930s and then renovated in the 80s and 90s. I disagree with many of the renovation choices. I don't have an endless amount of money to just tear down part of my house and rebuild, or to hire someone to come in and completely gut and renovate my kitchen. Again, I do the very same thing where I see people just completely renovate they buy a house and they seem to renovate the whole thing in 3 months. And I'm just going like, wait, what? We lived in our last house for about 10 years. And it really wasn't until the last few years of those 10 that we lived there that we were actually able to do anything really significant. And that was like flooring and painting our cabinets and doing some stuff outside. And so the comparison game for me, because I love home decor and interior design, that's just like a personal like side passion of mine. I really enjoy decorating our home, renovating rooms. I just got done doing all the kids' rooms upstairs, and I'm working on things down here now. But when we bought this property, we had prioritized the animals, and we needed to build a barn, and we needed to build a garage, and I needed to build like a little workspace and fencing and all of those things that are not sexy or like Instagram worthy. I'm not out here like, let me post pictures of my fencing. Like, nobody cares about that, but it's very expensive. And it's just, you know, we've lived here now for 2.5 years, and there's so much inside that we have not even begun to touch or do that I would like to long term. And it's very easy for me to get caught up in comparing my home to other people's homes. And it's just something that I fall into. So I say all of that to say, I never promised a short-winded video. I say all of that to say that the comparison game is real. Whatever it is that you're comparing yourself to, your home, your physical self, the amount of children that somebody has, the life that somebody appears to have, it's just a huge waste of your time. If you're laying on your sofa all day eating Twinkies and Doritos and you need a little bit of comparison to move your booty, fine. But we all know that that is a short-lived thing that gets your butt in motion. It is not like a daily comparison. I don't believe that jealousy is a good or healthy motivator. I think we need some internal motivations for our own reasons and not because we're trying to mimic others. So the comparison that happens when we're on social media is a huge waste of our time, because we spend so much time feeling bad about our home, our things, our husband, our clothing, our wardrobe, our kids, that we're not seeing what we have, the blessings that we have right in front of us. We're wasting so much time being envious of others or comparing ourselves to others and feeling less than, that in many ways we end up not being good stewards of what we have and what we've been given, and being able to see our life through the lens of our life, not someone else's. Whew, okay. This brings me to number 4. And again, you're going to see like I'm pointing my fingers at myself here, and that is out of control hobbies. Out of control hobbies can be huge time wasters. And I don't think that you shouldn't have hobbies. I have hobbies. I have lots of things that I love to do. In fact, I would argue that boredom is not an emotion I can relate to in any way. There are so many things that I want to do, so many books I want to read, or hobbies I want to try, or just things I want to do, that it's very easy for me to get very distracted. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. So for example, last year I planted a new garden. So I have my garden in the back, my little kitchen garden, and I did a garden up at the top of our property. That garden was a huge amount of work to set up, to maintain. It was at the top, it's at the top part of our property. I was having a lot of pest problems. Deer were coming and eating things. I needed to set up, drip irrigation and things like, the watering cycle of it all. It was a lot, and it ended up taking up a huge amount of my time that I really wasn't entirely prepared for. It just became, I don't want to say a time waste, because we did get some things out of it, but to be honest with you, because I wasn't able to get the structure to protect it from wildlife, to protect it from the deer specifically, they pretty much ate everything. As it came in, they ate it. So it was a large amount of work for not much in return. And so that kind of hobby, because again, at this point, we are not growing our food for our family's, consistent, constant consumption. It was a waste in this case for me. Gardening and, hobby farming and homesteading I'm not saying that is a waste, but in this case, what I was doing was, more like, I don't want to say for fun, but to learn and to try something. And I just didn't know how much work it was going to end up being, and how much of my time it was actually going to end up wasting. Number 5 is work-life balance. This is the day and age where a lot of moms, whether by choice or by necessity, have side hustles, side gigs, things that we do working from home to help bring in money. Maybe you're the breadwinner, but you're working from home, and we're trying to juggle so much often. And again, I've said this many times before, but my personal struggle is that because I work from home, it's very easy for me to work too much. I could talk a lot more about this, but I will say one of the biggest things that has helped me is to set priorities. If you are running some kind of a business, some kind of a side hustle from home while you are raising your young children, while you're homeschooling and being the homemaker, then you really have to set priorities. You have to decide what matters to you most, what is the biggest necessity right now, and ensure that you are adequately balancing the work priorities with the home and family priorities, and finding where they line up, where they intertwine, where one priority falls below the other, and be able to be flexible in that way. I always say that the balance is not going to be an everyday thing. Every single day, you're not going to balance each of those well. But when you kind of look at the larger picture of it, you want to see balance, right? Some days you're going to invest a lot more into what's going on at work. Some days you're going to invest a lot more into your home life and what's going on at home and within the home, and work stuff has to fall aside for a little bit. And I used to beat myself up about that so much, and I've learned that balance is really, it's not an everyday balance. You don't strike the balance every day. You try to strike the balance within a week, if that makes sense. So prioritizing and understanding what really balancing both of those looks like is a huge way to avoid wasting your time. Most of the time wasted in that is in the guilt that it brings you to not be doing one or the other. You spend too much time beating yourself up for not doing enough at work and not doing enough at home. That's a huge waste of your time because it doesn't actually change anything. You have to do something, right? This has to turn into some kind of tangible action in your life, not just sitting around ruminating on our feelings of, not enoughness, or feelings of guilt. That's not actually going to do anything other than fester. It's a huge waste of time. It's why I also feel like productivity is really such an important element of the life of a mother, a stay-at-home mom, a homemaker, a work-from-home mom, because our ability to prioritize and then also be productive within that time means that hopefully we can work less and have more time for the fun things. And by the way, I'm in the work, I'm talking about the laundry, the dishes, the other things that are not necessarily the spending time with our families, doing things that we enjoy. And I enjoy cleaning, but It's not what I want to be doing all day, every day. Okay, that brings me to number 6. I saved this one for last because I just know it's probably going to make some people angry. But hear me out, okay? Before you come at me with torches, just hear me out. Number 6 is laziness or apathy. Laziness, when someone says, are you being lazy? It feels very much like an insult, and I get that, okay? Being called lazy is not a term that I would ever enjoy being called. And laziness is actually defined, for your information, as the unwillingness to work or use your energy. I do think that we can all relate to that feeling. And so kind of combining the laziness and then if you take all of these other things I'm talking about with like the waste of time with social media and comparison, it can often roll into this ball of apathy where you just don't care anymore. Where you just go, well, I'm never going to have that. My life's never going to look like that. My home's never going to look like that. So I just don't care anymore. Who cares? And let me just tell you, the temptation that I fall into to become apathetic towards certain things. When I feel like I have gone out of my way to do something and then, by nature of my kids just being kids or by nature of the choices we've made to have so many animals, I'm like, I just cleaned and did all this and now there's hair everywhere and I get so mad. And then I can become apathetic and I can just go, you know what? I don't care. Fine. Destroy the house. Who cares? Just whatever. No one else cares but me. This is obviously a huge waste of time by being lazy or not getting anything done, and by being apathetic towards life and everything. You're not making any changes. You're not moving forward. And you're really wasting a lot of time in that kind of apathetic state when you could be using that same amount of energy, emotional energy, in a different direction. Obviously, correcting this requires a huge amount of self-discipline. This is something that I'm constantly, again, working on with myself, particularly, like I said, the ability to become apathetic about things that I feel like are monotonous or that nobody else cares but me, and I can just get really down about those things. So I have to kind of use my own self-discipline. Things like, not hitting the snooze button a million times, right? Your alarm goes off and you get out of bed. Training yourself to not hit the snooze button and just get up. If you have goals to get up early, get up before your kids, not hitting the snooze button, doing it, getting up. Especially as a stay-at-home mom, a homemaker, you don't have a boss telling you what to do. And I know, right? The joke is that like your kids are the boss. They come screaming into your room. But in terms of like your overall day, you're in control for the most part about how that day goes, your attitude towards the day, what you do with your time. And again, this is not me encouraging productivity for productivity's sake. I'm not saying that you should be running yourself ragged. We can waste our time in both getting nothing done and in getting things done that don't really matter, and we're not actually, it just feels like we're checking off to-do lists. We're not, we can still be very unhappy with the outcome and the day and our life and circumstances, even while getting things done. Being able to sort of rein yourself in, kind of develop that level of self-discipline that will allow you to not be apathetic towards your everyday life, will perhaps encourage you to not be lazy, listen, we all need our lazy moments, okay? But like to not be lazy is a consistent part of your everyday and how you approach every day and how you approach your life. This is why I love a good balance of the like motivational speaker kind of stuff. There are certain people that I like to listen to, but I always take it with the knowledge that I don't want to become someone who only cares about, it turns into somebody who just is like so essentially like very selfish, right? Because then it becomes all about myself and bettering myself, and I just want to be a better person. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I'm like that whole like motivation can end up turning into a lot of like thinly veiled narcissism, and self-love can end up turning into a lot of self-prioritization and can end up becoming very unhealthy in your home and in your relationships. So again, I say all of this not from like a preachy place, but just from a like, this is the crap I've learned over the years, y'all. This is the things I've seen within my own life, within my own family, within my own marriage, within my own job, and the ways that I have tried to course correct, if you will. So in the next video, we're going to talk about some productivity strategies for homemakers, for moms, for stay-at-home moms, work-at-home moms, ways that you can kind of fix some of these things that we talked about. I gave a little bit on each one about fixes, but I want to talk more about that, like very tangible, strategic, like here's some things to try, some good takeaways for you that you can implement. There's stuff you can implement in this video, but you know what I'm saying, even more. But that's as far as we're gonna go in today's video. Like I said, subscribe if you wanna kind of keep going down this path with me. I would love to have you. And that's it, y'all. I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.